Hello and welcome to Otterwood Cottage, where we're building a brand new small holding in the heart of the Lincolnshire countryside. I'm Emma and we're delighted to have you along with us. Now the eagle-eyed among you will realise that that intro you've just seen is me from a different day. And the reason for that is that last week I started to try and record one of those 20-minute straight through videos that I talked to you about the week before. I was going to walk you through me taking in the harvest of the corn on the cob, talked about various things during that recording, and then came back to edit and upload, and my microphone had run out of battery about 5 minutes into the recording. So this idea of me being able to do a kind of 20-minute straight through recording to make life easier, that's all very well, but note to self, make sure that your microphone is fully charged before even attempting to do a straight through record. Normally if I'm recording bits and bobs, I do periodically check that the microphone is still in battery. What I probably need to do is get a better microphone that tells me what the battery level is on the microphone, because you don't know it's run out until you come to look at your videos, which is always frustrating, and was particularly frustrating last week when I was trying to do a quick job and get something up. Hence no video last week. The other little failure last week was last we spoke I mentioned that I had in mind the possibility of creating a second channel because of the work I'm doing in the workshop. And I had rather naively said, I'm going to do that as a no talk, no music channel to save me on editing, and that'll be nice and quick. Well, it turns out, having filmed myself in the workshop, because I did do quite a lot of work in there last week, that an awful lot of time of me working in the workshop is me standing around thinking about things. Have a look at this. So it turns out that editing all of that out is much more work than it's probably worth. So I'm pausing on the idea of the second channel for now. The reality of being back to kind of full-time work on top of the busyness of September on the small holding and trying to get infrastructure projects ready and up and running means that I think I am kinder to myself if I just stick to getting videos up for you when I can. I'll keep trying with the idea of the continuous shots where and when I can, but I'll also just kind of acknowledge that I might have to do a bit of editing, which might mean what you end up with is less frequent, slightly longer videos, because there'll be a couple of weeks worth of filming in there, or it might be that I do kind of shorter ones. I'm not going to commit to anything basically, so I will get videos up for you when I can. I will share what we're doing regularly, but it might not be, as it never has been, it won't be to a particular schedule. So I'm going to just take you back to the little bit of the video I did manage to record with sound, and you can see how we were getting on with harvesting the corn. All right, you're joining me out at the sweet corn patch, where today's task is to harvest the first big harvest of sweet corn. We've had a couple of sweet corn that we've had for lunches from the plants, but this is the first time I'm taking a big harvest to take inside and prep for storage. So we have, since we last spoke, I think I mentioned we'd been talking about potentially getting hold of another freezer, because we had filled the 2 freezers we have. We've got a freezer drawer on the fridge freezer in the main kitchen, and then in the garage we had a second fridge freezer, which we've only got 2 because we bought one from our old house and the owners left their one here, so we ended up with 2, which has turned out to be super convenient. But they're both kind of fridge freezers where the freezer's relatively small in relation to the amount of food that we're storing. So we filled 2 freezers with produce, and we knew that we had more coming in. What are you? We knew that we would have more coming in from the garden over the next few weeks as we get heavily into harvest season. So we have treated ourselves to a large chest freezer, which is in the garage where the fridge freezer is. Yeah, that's ready. So the plan for this sweet corn, there are some that aren't quite ready. It's always tricky to tell. They say that when these things go brown and dry off, the plant is ready, or the fruit is ready rather. But that doesn't always, in my experience, prove to be the case, and sometimes you end up with some that could have done with a bit longer. So sometimes I do kind of open from the top. Yeah, that one's not ready. And sometimes you can tell by feeling them, but it's a bit of a dark art unless anyone out there knows of any foolproof ways of knowing for sure that your corn is ready. I'm just taking what, to the best of my ability, I can work out are right ones. That one hasn't pollinated all the way to the top, so that does happen sometimes, unless you're very carefully hand pollinating always. This is what can happen. So this hasn't pollinated all the way to the top, these ones aren't pollinated, but there's still plenty of good eating on that. Further down, that would be a small one. I'll cover that back up. So the plan for these is, the other thing that we have treated ourselves to since we last spoke, I don't think I've mentioned this before, is a vacuum sealer. And it's at that point that the microphone ran out of battery. And so I think the key things that I was kind of telling you about there were my struggles, my worries about using the vac pack sealer. So we bought a vacuum sealer alongside a chest freezer to be able to package up our veg coming in future. We're hoping to raise our own meat, so both of those things are useful for those purposes. I have always been very reticent to get a vacuum sealer, mostly because of the kind of impact of the plastic it uses, and I was first of all persuaded by the fact that I'd read some stuff that said you can reuse the vacuum sealer bags. You have to cut off the bit that's sealed, so the bag gets progressively smaller each time. But as long as you're not using it for meat, you can't reuse it if you've used it for meat. But if you've used it for veg or sauces and things like that, then you can wash them out and reuse them in the same way as you would any freezer bag. So that made me feel a bit better. And then even better, I managed to find some compostable vacuum pack sealer packs. So that's what we've gone for. So we've got the kind of non-compostable ones that came with the machine we bought, which we will use up and reuse as far as we can, but then the compostable ones we will use going forward from there, and that makes me feel much better about using plastic if it can go in the compost. In a domestic compost it takes a bit longer to rot down, but can be done in a domestic compost, so we'll just probably have to think about it a bit differently, perhaps put it in a compost that's going to be hotter with manure in it and so on, so that it helps to break it down. But that does make me generally feel happier about using the vacuum sealer. The downside of that is, as with all things when you're trying to be as environmentally friendly as you can, they are much more expensive. So actually there is something to weigh up between the fact that the compostable eco bags are almost as expensive, not quite, but very nearly as expensive as buying the kind of reusable solid bags that you've seen me use for all kinds of sauces and things, which does make it an expensive endeavour. But obviously the benefit of vacuum sealing is that you get the longer life in the freezer. So weighing all those things up, we might buy some more of the reusable bags and use those for things that we know we're going to churn through quite quickly, and then use the vacuum sealer for things that are going to be in there for longer and which therefore will benefit from the extra, it's not shelf life, is it, because they're not on the shelf, but you know what I mean, the extra kind of protection from freezer burn. So that's exciting. It is fun to use the vacuum sealer, I have to say. And the other thing that I know a lot of people use it for is for sealing cheeses. When I've made cheese in the past, I've used wax, which is I think going to be my preferred method going forward, as and when we do have cows and or sheep milk to be able to make our own cheeses. But it's there as an option to vacuum seal. Some cheeses I think benefit from vacuum sealing rather than waxing. So lots of uses for it, I hope, moving forward in the future. And then the other thing I spoke about, which I am definitely going to repeat now because I'm just so blown away by the kindness. So Ali from My Rusty Garden, all the way from Canada, has sent over an enormous pack of seeds for me to try next year. Ali, thank you so much. That's so generous of you. I really, really appreciate it. And I will keep you updated as to how they're going when we start planting next season. But genuinely, the kindness of relative strangers. We've been talking on here for a while on each other's channels, but strangers in the sense that we have never met, probably never will. She's all the way in Canada. Here I am in Lincolnshire, and she's reached out and sent over those seeds. So I really, really appreciate that, Ali. Thank you so much. And then the other thing I was just going to update you on is progress in the workshop, which so far I have finished the stand for the table saw, so I'm now able to use the table saw much more easily than kneeling on the floor with it. And also something I'm really pleased with, I'll show you some footage of it in a second, is a roller stand to go alongside it to help me manoeuvre bigger pieces of MDF. I'm making some cabinets at the moment which need pretty chunky pieces of MDF, and I have invented a roller to go alongside it, which I made out of rolling pins, plastic rolling pins with wooden handles. Really chuffed with it. I'll show you that now. It works a treat and I'm really pleased with it. Something I just kind of made up as I went along. So workshop's going well, and for the rest of this video what I'd like to do is a September tour of the veg plots. We've got so much coming in. I'm going to do a little bit of, I'm in the brassica cage, I'm going to do a little bit of harvesting from in here. There's stuff to come in from the polytunnel, there's plenty out in the main growing space. As you already saw, I've bought in lots of sweet corn, which has either gone in the freezer whole as corn on the cob, or a couple of them where they weren't quite as pollinated all the way around. I've scraped that off and we've frozen those as kind of just sweet corn to go in soups and stews and yummy things like that. So sweet corn is harvested. Let me take you around the rest and show you what else is going on. Come with me. So the brassica cage has been a real triumph this year. I've been really pleased with it. We're getting absolutely tons out of here. The seedlings that we've got ready to go in to replace what's coming out are looking fabulous. The kale, we've had plenty of Cavolo Nero kale from there. We've got beetroot ready to come in. We're going to do some pickled beetroot ready for Christmas and some roasted beetroot to go in the freezer. We've got plenty of broccoli. So this was quick heading Calabrese, I never know how to say it. Which we've taken all of these, both that side and over here, we've taken the main head from, but now they're giving us absolutely loads of, look, you can see where the main head came off, and then we're getting loads and loads of these shoots, which we are eating like, well, what it is, sprouting broccoli, I guess. I'm really enjoying that, actually enjoying the sprouting broccoli even more than the main shoots, but you do have to be quite quick about it, because if you don't catch it, it goes to flower fairly fast. And I've been chopping those off and getting rid of them or giving them to the chickens. Speaking of chickens, this is the goosefoot tree spinach, which it turns out, even if you don't like it, as a pest trap for aphids is absolutely brilliant. So the aphids seem to be attracted to this and they're staying off of everything else. So what I've been doing, this is the third flush of this tree spinach now, and because we've got so much other greenery coming in, we're not harvesting it to eat anymore. But I've been cutting it down at the base and giving it to the chickens, who are loving both the spinach and the aphids. So that's a win-win, and something that I'm going to continue to grow every year for exactly that purpose, I think. The other real success story in here, and it's the first time it's been a success story for me. We are getting some absolutely fabulous, and that one is coming in for some cauliflower cheese for our roast dinner today. I thought that I had planted these cauliflower too close together. In fact, according to what the packet tells you to do, I've definitely planted them too close together. But I think it's ended up being a unintended success, because what it's done with them being so close together is forced all of the leaves up, and they are therefore protecting the vegetable inside. Oh, that's one I've taken already. I was going to show you one, but here you go. They're therefore really wrapped around and protecting the cauliflower inside, which is stopping them doing what they normally do when I've tried to grow them before, which is blow and go to seed really quickly. So that is going to be every year from now on, I'm going to plant them closer together, because that really has been a success. The Savoy cabbages are starting to head up, so they're going to be ready definitely for the Christmas table, and I'm sure before. And then beetroot down here, look, is looking fantastic. Some of them are quite big, ready to go in various different recipes that we have planned for them. The Brussels sprouts, again for the Christmas table, are just starting now. Look, teeny tiny sprouts starting to grow, so they're going to be fabulous. And then the Asturian tree cabbage I haven't harvested from for a while, because we've had so much else coming in and it's got massive. So I think some of these leaves I'm going to take just to free the plant up a bit, and the chickens are going to have some absolutely lovely treats from in here. So I'm going to get on with a bit of that, and then I'll take you into the polytunnel. But let's harvest and tidy in here first. There we go, quick and easy. I've taken some broccoli florets from those plants, some beetroot, the lovely cauliflower. I've given the Asturian tree cabbage a pretty severe haircut. There's plenty come off of there for the chooks, and then another enormous bag of stuff. So the chickens are very lucky today. They're getting lots and lots of treats. Pulled a couple of weeds, chopped down those big tree spinach, and that's it for in here for now. So I'm going to go and give the chickens the treats, and then I'll bring you into the polytunnel. Before we do head into the polytunnel, we're due to get some storms later today and some wind, so I thought I'd bring you out here first to give you a quick tour outside and show you what's happening. These are all the various beans that we're growing for the beans rather than for their pods, so they're doing well. The Greek gigantes are starting to dry off, so we'll be able to harvest those soon. Same with the Emergo runner beans, so we had plenty of those fresh, and now I'm letting those dry to take the beans from them. And then we've got the Czar and the Trail of Tears. These, look at the colour of these. They're really quite beautiful. So they are all still fresh, but will dry on the vine, on the pod. And then we've got some lovely pops of colour from the flowers in the second chaos bed. I've just taken some more beetroot from that row of beetroot there to add to there's the tops from them there, look, to add to what I took out of the brassica cage. The radish hopefully are going to start podding soon, because I'm going to take the radish pods. The borage, is it called borage? Yeah, the borage is pretty much over now. That's gone over in both beds, this one and the one over there. But we're just going to leave that to go to seed and spread its seeds. So we have plenty of that. Some beautiful, can't remember what they're called, but they're really pretty flowers that went in to the end of the bed. The leeks, these little teeny tiny ones I planted in bunches, are coming along well, so I will have to split those soon. And the ones I planted out as individuals are starting to thicken up. The salad, this makes me so happy. There's something about the look of beautiful whole salads. I don't know what it is. I think because probably they're so often just munched by slugs, but because we've been so lucky with the weather this year, it's the first year in a long time I've seen salad looking as beautiful and whole as that, and it just gives me such joy. It's so brilliant. The celery, we've grown loads of it. You can see there's tons of it there. It's growing up. It's not growing particularly fat, but it's growing quite tall, but we're just not eating it. It was a little bit bitter. I don't know if it was the variety that we bought or whether I've done something wrong with it, but we're just not eating it, so I don't think I will bother with that again this year. Our courgettes, first year ever I haven't been complaining I've got too many courgettes. They are still coming, but really slowly. We're not getting many off them at all. There's another one here. So it's not been a great year for courgettes this year, which is, I mean, normally the joke is that you've normally got so many you don't know what to do with them. The beans, which I have, the bush beans, which I've allowed to dry on the bush, are all getting there. So the yin yangs, I think, are ready to harvest. So they're all looking a bit sad now, but it is deliberate that we're allowing them to do that. The Jacob's cattle, which looked like they were dead and not doing anything, are looking fabulous now. But they're obviously a long way off of drying, like those ones over there. So just took longer to come in. I've got a row of carrots here, which could probably do with thinning out. Yeah, that's a job for some point. Some more bunches of leeks, which will need thinning. The fabulous walking onions, which you've heard me talk about before. You know how I love those. These are the lazy housewife, which again, having looked like they were doing nothing, are now looking pretty good. These are another drying one. So they're just starting to form. Hopefully they've got long enough to continue to do so before it gets too wet. Nasturtium, second, third flush, I think, maybe, of nasturtium, where I keep cutting those back. Again, like the tree spinach, they're a fantastic pest trap. More beautiful pops of colour. These are ground cherries, which have bushed up brilliantly, and they are starting to give fruit, the little lanterns. There's some bigger ones down here, but they're a long way off being ready to harvest. Now, I was starting to worry because I thought they should have been ready to harvest by now, but I was watching Wild and Plenty, and although hers are starting to be ready in her polytunnel, they're not ready outside, and she's grown them before and was kind of pretty relaxed about that, so that's made me feel better that I still might get a harvest from those. What have we got here? Asparagus doing its asparagus thing. And then I showed you at the beginning of the video harvesting the corn. I don't think before the microphone ran out that I was able to show you the butternut squash we're getting. Look at the size of that one, it's massive. And the, can't remember the name, William something, crookneck squash these are. You can see why. So I've had 3 of these. This plant had already died back, so there were 3 on that plant which have gone inside and are curing on the windowsill. But these ones, still the stem isn't going brown, and I can still mark the skin with a thumbnail, so they are not ready yet. And there are a few, most of the corn came in, but there are a few that just look like, given half a chance, they might still come to something. I don't know if they've got time now, but there was no point taking corn that wasn't ripe. You can see it's dying back now. Definitely need to do a lot more corn next year. More crookneck in there and in there and in there. I don't think we've got anywhere near enough squash to get us through the winter. Obviously these ones I planted late didn't come to anything, which I didn't really expect them to in the end. So next year we've got the space out here, many more squash in this area here that's currently covered in black plastic. Mr. H has weeded all of this recently because where the storms had blown the plastic back, there were the kind of pioneer weeds were coming back in, particularly thistles, which I've got an enormous thistle, a couple of enormous thistles in the Polytunnel. Oh, let me show you these. More flowers that I can't remember the name of, but I'm really pleased with them. They're so pretty at the end of the bed. Such lovely colours. Gorgeous. Yeah, so beans, lots of beans to let dry, finish drying and bring in, quite a lot of harvesting to do there. Plenty of carrots to come in, some more beetroot to come in, the ground cherries when they're ready. We're taking onions as we need them. And then, hello Otter, you've been brave and coming in the Polytunnel. Yeah? I think he might be munching on a melon that had started to go a bit soft. Right, Polytunnel. Let me show you in here. Did you remember, really not very long ago, tidying up in here with me? Well, it has gone absolutely crackers again. And there's a fair amount of harvest. There's plenty of harvesting to do in here and quite a bit of tidying up. Yeah, look, I'm almost ashamed to show you that, but clearly that melon had come off. Something's got at it. That needs to go on the compost. The watermelon are swelling. These are meant to be fairly small, but I'm pretty pleased with that size. They're not ready yet. It's not sounding hollow and the stem isn't gone brown. So they're not ready. We've got lots of peppers. I don't know if you can see actually. Lots of peppers to come. Plenty on this one that need harvesting. There's loads of lanterns formed on the tomatillos, but none of them have got anything. Well, they've got tiny little fruit in them. But look, if I squeeze that, there's just hardly anything. Now I'm sure I grew this same variety last year, admittedly further south, so a little bit warmer. But I'm sure we were harvesting those from the beginning of August last year. So I'm a bit worried they're not going to come to anything. I'm half thinking about taking them out, but I don't know. I really don't want to if they have still got a chance to come. Does anyone know? Has anyone harvested tomatillos later in the season? More peppers I need to harvest there. Some rainbow chilies to come. The cucumbers, which I thought had finished, clearly just weren't enjoying the heat because which is weird because I thought they were a hot weather plant, but it cooled down a bit and look, hundreds of them. So that's fabulous. This is tomato feed I made from the borage that's outside. And what else did I want to show you in here? This is the other thing that I'm a little bit just not concerned about, but interested by, is these aubergines are just not ripening. They've sat that colour and that size for absolutely ages. Now they're obviously, for a minute I thought maybe they're yellow, but they're not, look, because that one is turning purple. But I have a lot of them. Oh, there's one ready there I've just spotted. See, coming in with you to film gets you to look at things in a slightly different way. There's one there that looks like it might be ripe. It's kind of a rounder one than I've been used to having. But the others are all staying this kind of yellow colour. So maybe they're just slower to ripen. But I'm not sure now if there's time for them to continue to do so. We're just going to keep a watching brief on that. These tomatoes are crackers. Really could do with tying up or cutting back. But plenty of tomatoes still coming, so lots of those to harvest. The auroras have slowed right down now, but I mean, having said that, they are still coming. They're splitting, which is interesting, I think, because we've had quite heavy rains, and although the watering in here is controlled, of course the water table is still high when it rains, so I think they're ripening, and then the water table rises and they soak up a load and split. These have been pretty prone to splitting too. Yeah, it's only done a tiny bit at the top, but they have been quite prone to it. And the loofah, which I keep saying doesn't look like it's ever going to give me a fruit. Ta-da! A fruit! Again, no idea if it's going to have time to actually turn into a fully blown loofah, but exciting nonetheless. And look, how's that for a thistle? There's one. Where did I see the other enormous one? Here, look. I mean, if there was a prize for growing enormous thistles, we'd be winning. So they need to come out. And the mystery squash is no longer a mystery. That was the other thing I was going to show you. Because, now I can't find it. There you go. They are butternut squash. So there's several on the plant, but you can tell by the shape and how they look compared to the other butternut squash that we're growing. But that's what they are. So there's quite a few of those. I saw loads earlier and it's typical. Now I'm trying to find them. I can't see them, but there's plenty of butternut squash. There's another one down there. So an absolute jungle in here again. So I'm going to get on with harvesting peppers, tomatoes, that one aubergine that was ready, trying to get the thistles out, and generally there's a bit of deadheading to do, get rid of that manky melon that we managed to miss, and tidy up in here. I mean, I'd like to start thinking about clearing some space for the next crops, although it is still quite warm, although it did get down in here to less than 3 degrees last night, so we're going to have to start another job to add to the mental list of things to do every morning and evening is going to be to start closing up the polytunnel and opening it again. We've been just leaving it open all summer, but that is not going to do the crops in here any good if it's getting down to close to zero, so we'll have to start closing that up. The lemon basil you can see here is going to seed, but that's fine. I'm just going to let that do that, because then hopefully next year we'll have lots of self-seeded lemon basil. The more that I can allow to self-seed outside, the less I need to worry about space for seeds inside for germination. So I'm very happy to let things self-seed and then move them if they're not in the right place out here. So some general tidying. I might get a wheelbarrow. I think there's going to be quite a lot to take out of here. There's some leaf curl on some of the tomatoes, so I think I'll take a load of the leaves off. But yeah, let's get on with it in here. Again, the never-ending task of tidying the polytunnel. kick myself. I've just made a mistake. I was trying to take back all the squash and the loofah that, I was trying to cut them at the end of where a fruit had formed. And the loofah, I was going to take out the plant that hasn't formed any fruit to give the plant that did have the fruit on it the best chance of getting as much space and light as possible. And I accidentally nicked off the one that has got the fruit. So now I've got no loofah. We're never going to know if the loofah would have survived. Never mind, next year we will try again for loofah. But the squash I'm kind of trying to cut right back to give the fruits the best chance of growing. I've done one side, filled a barrel already, so I'm going to go and put that on the compost and then start on the middle. So there we have it. That is looking much tidier. It's going to start to get damp in here, so important not to have it too overgrown, because we're going to leave ourselves susceptible to blight. I missed some of these. Thought I'd got them all. There we go. And then what I've done with the melons and the squash is move them out so that they're resting on the path, and they're nice and easy to see how they're developing rather than having to go searching for them in the undergrowth. I don't think this one quite reached. No, that one didn't quite reach the path, or that one. So those two are going to have to stay where they are, but they're nice and visible anyway. I'm pleased with that. Right, hopefully you've enjoyed the little catch up of where we're at mid-September. I'll just show you quickly what I harvested from in there. I'm going to go and make up a tomato sauce with what I've harvested, and then get ready for lunch. There we go, lovely little harvest. So I'm going to do a little pepper and tomato basil with an aubergine sauce for the freezer. We've got some cucumbers for salads, and I think if I show you the sky, it looks much brighter on screen than it does in reality, but I think the rains and the wind are about to come, so I'm going to get that lot to the compost, get this sauce made, and that's me signing off. I'll see you soon. Hope you've enjoyed this catch up. I'll catch you next time.